Commander Alan Russell stood at the observation deck of the first human deep space vessel, gazing at the stars. For 50 years, humanity had been dismissed as newcomers to the galactic stage. The Zilari, with their 6 eyes and smooth blue skin, barely acknowledged humans during council meetings. The Vos Dominion, ancient and powerful, treated human ambassadors like children. None of them suspected what humanity had built. "Commander, Dr. Wright is ready for you," said Lieutenant Jack Morris, saluting crisply. Alan nodded and followed Jack through the corridors of the ship. The Pathfinder was officially a diplomatic vessel, but its true purpose was hidden beneath layers of outdated technology and humble design. Only those in the highest positions of Earth's government knew about the secret compartments, the advanced weapons, and the revolutionary engines that Dr. Olivia Wright had designed. Dr. Wright waited in the laboratory, her eyes bright with excitement. At 45, she had already revolutionized physics 3 times over, yet most alien species thought humans were still struggling with basic space travel. "It works, Alan," she said, forgoing formality, as she always did when excited. "The quantum field manipulator actually works," Alan smiled. "Show me." Olivia activated a holographic display showing a barren planet. "This is New Eden, the planet we claimed last month. According to traditional science, it would take centuries to make it habitable." She pressed a button, and the simulation changed. Green spread across the planet's surface, oceans formed, and clouds gathered. "With my invention, we can do it in 20 years. 20 years, Alan repeated. The Zilari took 500 years to terraform their first colony. And they're still proud of it, Olivia said with a grin. Meanwhile, humans will have established 20 fully habitable worlds before they even realize what we're doing. The communication panel beeped. "Commander Russell, Senator Blackwell is requesting to speak with you," announced the ship's AI, Alan. Accepted the call, and Senator George Blackwell's face appeared on screen. The older man looked tired but satisfied. "Alan, the council meeting went exactly as planned," George said. "The Voss representative actually patted me on the head. He told me humans were adorably ambitious for wanting to establish a 3rd colony." Alan exchanged a glance with Olivia. "If only they knew we already have 17. "Let them underestimate us," George said. "It's worked in our favor so far. The funding for the next phase has been approved. We're building our first battle fleet." "A fleet?" Olivia asked. "I thought the plan was to remain peaceful." "We are peaceful," George replied. "But we're not naive. The galaxy is filled with species that have been waging war for thousands of years. We need to protect what we've built." Alan nodded in agreement. "How many ships?" 50 to start. All with your cloaking technology, Alan, and Olivia's engines. They'll be invisible to sensors and faster than anything the Council races have." After the call ended, Alan returned to the observation deck. The Pathfinder was approaching the edge of known space, beyond the watchful eyes of the Galactic Council. Here, humans had been secretly building for decades. "Sir, we're receiving a signal from Haven Colony," said Jack, joining him on the deck. Alan frowned. "Haven isn't supposed to broadcast unless there's an emergency." "It's not an emergency, sir. They've found something." Jack handed him a data. Something big. The images showed an enormous structure, clearly artificial but unlike anything humans had built. It floated in space near Haven, its design strange and beautiful. "Is it operational?" Alan asked. "No, sir. It appears to be abandoned. Been there for possibly thousands of years." Alan's heart raced. Alien technology, especially ancient technology, was closely guarded by the Council races. They believed younger species couldn't be trusted with advanced knowledge. Yet here was a massive structure, undiscovered by the Council, right in the middle of human territory. "Tell Captain Lisa Reed to send a research team immediately," Alan ordered. "And not a word to anyone outside our colonies." 3 months later, Alan stood inside the alien structure, now known as the Artifact. Dr. Wright worked at a console nearby, her face lit by strange symbols. "It's a library, Alan," she said in awe. "A technological library left by a species that called themselves the predecessors. and from what I can tell, they were far more advanced than even the Voss. Can we use it? Alan asked. Olivia nodded slowly. I've already downloaded schematics for energy systems centuries beyond what we have now. With this knowledge, we could build ships that would make the Pathfinder look like a rowboat. Alan walked to a window that overlooked space. In the distance, he could see the lights of Haven Colony, one of humanity's most successful secret settlements. Send everything to Earth, he decided, and prepare the artifact for transport to a secure location. The Council can never know about this. 1 year later, Alan watched as the first true human warship took form in a hidden shipyard orbiting Jupiter. The HSS Endeavour was magnificent, sleek, powerful, and incorporating technology from the artifact. Beautiful, isn't she? Asked Admiral Kelly Woods, the woman chosen to command humanity's first battle fleet. She's more than that, Alan replied. She's our insurance policy. Against what? Kelly asked. Against the day when the Council discovers what we've been doing, Alan said. They've kept other young species under their thumb for centuries. They won't appreciate that we've slipped their leash. The construction bots swarmed around the Endeavour, adding the final pieces to her hull. Similar ships were being built in secret facilities throughout human space, all while their ambassadors smiled politely at council meetings, accepted patronizing guidance, and maintained the fiction that humans were just taking their first steps into the stars. Alan's communication device chimed. It was a message from the survey ship Horizon, which had been mapping systems at the edge of human space. Commander Russell, Captain Ben Jordan's voice was tense. We've detected unusual energy signatures following our course. At first we thought it was a sensor malfunction, but we've confirmed it. Someone's watching us, someone with technology we've never seen before, and they're not from the Council. Alan felt a chill run down his spine. Return to Haven immediately. Share your findings with no one. As he ended the call, Alan gazed at the nearly complete Endeavour. Humanity had built an empire in secret, right under the noses of ancient alien civilizations. They had colonies, fleets, and technology that could rival the oldest Council races. But now it seemed someone else had noticed. Someone who wasn't part of the Council. Someone who had been watching from the shadows. And Alan Russell had the sinking feeling that humanity's secret empire might soon face its first real test. 50 years had passed since Commander Alan Russell discovered the Watchers. Humanity had grown stronger in secret. Admiral Catherine Bell stood on the bridge of the HSS Defender, the most powerful warship humans had ever built. At 58, she had spent her entire career preparing for a war she hoped would never come. Status report, she ordered, her voice calm despite the tension in the air. All systems normal, Admiral, replied Lieutenant Sue Harper. Our stealth systems are active. No sign of Council or Watcher vessels in this sector. Catherine nodded. The Defender was just one of 300 warships humanity had built. All of them used technology far beyond what the Galactic Council knew humans possessed. To the Council, races humans were still considered newcomers with only a handful of colonies. In reality, humanity had spread to over 120 worlds. Open a channel to Governor Morgan, Catherine said. The holographic display flickered, and Governor Eliza Morgan appeared. She was in her office on Haven, now the most prosperous human colony. Admiral Bell, Eliza greeted her. Is there news? The Watchers have increased their activity, Catherine said. 3 more of our outposts detected their probes last week. They're getting bolder. Eliza frowned. Do you think they'll make contact soon? Dr. Patel believes so. His research team has been studying their patterns for decades. The Watchers have never observed a species as long as they've watched us without eventually making contact. Dr. Samuel Patel was the leading expert on the mysterious aliens they called the Watchers. For 50 years, these unknown beings had been observing human ships and colonies from a distance, never interfering, never communicating. And what about the Council? Eliza asked. Any sign they've noticed our true expansion? Catherine shook her head. Our operatives report that the Council still thinks we have only 7 colonies. The Zilari ambassador actually complimented Earth's representative on how quickly we're growing. She smiled slightly. If only they knew. After ending the call, Catherine left the bridge and walked to the science lab where Dr. Patel worked. The door slid open silently, revealing a room filled with holographic displays showing data collected about the Watchers. "Admiral," Dr. Patel said, looking up from his work, "I was just about to call you." Samuel Patel had been only 25 when he first started studying the Watchers. Now his hair was gray, but his eyes still shone with the same curiosity. "What have you found?" Catherine asked. "Evidence that the Watchers aren't just observing us," he said, pointing to one of the displays. "They've been manipulating events within the Galactic Council for centuries, possibly millennia." Catherine frowned. "Manipulating how?" "Subtle influence. They've prevented certain species from gaining too much power. They've encouraged conflicts between others. And most importantly, they've pushed the Council to restrict the development of any new species." "Like us?" Samuel nodded. "Exactly like us. The question is why? Why would they want to keep new species weak? And why have they been watching us so closely without interfering?" Before Catherine could respond, her communication device beeped. It was an emergency signal from an exploration ship at the edge of human space. "Admiral Bell," said Captain Mary Wilson, her image flickering with static. "We've made contact with the Watchers. Or rather, they've made contact with us." Catherine's heart raced. "Explain." A ship appeared next to ours, much larger than anything we've seen before. They called themselves the Nix Collective. Mary's voice faltered. "They told us to deliver a message to human leadership. They demand we halt all expansion immediately or face extinction." Catherine exchanged a glance with Samuel. This was the moment they had been preparing for over 5 decades. "What did you tell them?" Catherine asked. "Nothing, Admiral. I followed protocol. We acted as if we were just a simple exploration vessel without authority to negotiate." "Good. Return to Haven immediately. Send all data about the encounter. I'm calling an emergency meeting of the Defense Council." 6 hours later, Catherine stood in the secure command center beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean. Around her were the top military and political leaders of humanity. "The Nix have finally shown themselves," she said. "And they've issued a direct threat. I believe we should activate the fleet." General Frank Ortega, the head of ground forces, leaned forward. "All 300 ships?" "All of them," Catherine confirmed. "The Nix Collective has been watching us for 50 years. They know more about us than the Council does. We can't afford to hold back." President Joe Hoffman nodded slowly. "Do we know why they want us to stop expanding?" Dr. Patel displayed his latest findings. "Based on the data from Captain Wilson's encounter, I believe the Nix see us as a threat, not for what we are now, but for what we might become." "There's something else," said Intelligence Director Linda Martinez. "Our operatives in the Council intercepted communications between Council members. They're planning to impose new restrictions on upstart species. They specifically mentioned humans." Catherine wasn't surprised. The Nix have been influencing them, manipulating the Council to keep younger species weak and dependent. "And we've secretly broken all their rules," President Hoffman said. "If either the Council or the Nix discover the full extent of our expansion," he didn't need to finish. Everyone in the room knew what it meant. "So what do we do?" asked Governor Morgan, who was attending via hologram from Haven. "We prepare for war," Catherine said simply. "We've spent 50 years building our strength, while pretending to be weak. Now we need to decide when and how to reveal ourselves." As if answering her question, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. A communication officer rushed in. "Admiral, we're receiving emergency signals from 3 frontier colonies. They're under attack." "The Nix?" Catherine asked, already knowing the answer. "Yes, ma'am. Large vessels matching the description Captain Wilson provided. They're deploying weapons unlike anything we've seen before." Catherine straightened her uniform. This was the moment her entire career had prepared her for. "Send orders to all fleet commanders. Activate protocol revelation. And get me a direct line to Captain William Hayes of the HSS Defiant. His ship is closest to New Eden Colony." As the command center erupted into activity, Catherine turned to President Hoffman. "Sir, I recommend we inform the Galactic Council of our true capabilities. If we're going to war with the Nix, we can't maintain our deception any longer." President Hoffman nodded grimly. "I'll have Ambassador Lewis prepare a statement. The Council is in for quite a shock." Across human space, hidden shipyards activated, colonial defense systems powered up, and 300 warships built in secret over 5 decades prepared for battle. The Nix Collective had made a grave miscalculation. They thought they were attacking a minor species with a handful of vulnerable colonies. Instead, they had just declared war on an empire no one saw coming. Captain William Hayes gripped the arms of his command chair as the HSS Defiant raced toward New Eden Colony. Warning lights flashed across the bridge. Crew members worked frantically at their stations. Through the main viewport, William could see 3 massive Nix vessels in orbit around the colony. Their ships were dark and angular, unlike the smooth designs of Council vessels. "Status of the colony?" William asked, his voice steady despite the fear in his chest. "Heavy bombardment of the main settlement," replied his first officer, Susan. "Planetary shields are holding at 60%. Civilian casualties are minimal so far." William nodded. The Nix clearly didn't know about the advanced shield technology human colonies had installed. They expected an easy target. "Weapons ready?" he asked. "Yes, sir," answered Weapons Officer Peter Cohen. "All railguns charged. Quantum missiles armed. Communications. Open a channel to Admiral Bell." The holographic display flickered to life, showing Admiral Catherine Bell's face. She looked calm, but determined. "Captain Hayes, you are authorized to engage with full capabilities," she said. "The time for hiding is over." William felt a weight lift from his shoulders. For his entire career, he had trained with weapons and systems that officially didn't exist. He had practiced tactics that no one outside the military knew humans possessed. Now, finally, they could show their true strength. "Understood, Admiral. What about the Council?" "Ambassador Lewis is informing them as we speak. Expect confusion and possibly hostility. Focus on saving New Eden." As the communication ended, William turned to his crew. "Disengage stealth systems. Power all weapons to maximum. Let's show the Nix what they're really dealing with." The Defiant changed before their eyes. Hidden weapon ports opened along its hull. The ship's energy signature, previously disguised to appear like a simple transport vessel, now blazed with power. The Defiant was no longer pretending to be weak. "Sir, the Nix ships have detected us," Susan reported. "They're turning to engage." William smiled grimly. "Let them come." In the Grand Hall of the Galactic Council, Ambassador Diana Lewis stood before representatives of 27 alien species. The Zalari delegation watched her with their 6 eyes blinking in confusion. The massive Voss representative leaned forward, his stone-like skin creasing with suspicion. "Esteemed council members," Diana began, her voice echoing in the chamber. "For 70 years, humanity has been a member of this council. You have guided us, advised us, and sometimes patronized us. Today that changes." Murmurs swept through the hall. The council president, a tall, thin alien named Zorax, raised his hand for silence. "What is the meaning of this, Ambassador Lewis?" he demanded. Diana activated a holographic display. It showed a map of the galaxy with small blue dots representing human territories. "This is what you believe human territory looks like," she said. Then she pressed a button, and the display changed. Now hundreds of blue dots filled a large section of the galaxy. "And this is the reality." Gasps and shouts filled the chamber. The Zalari representative stood up, his tentacles waving in agitation. "Impossible," he declared. "Humans do not have the technology or resources for such expansion." Diana smiled coldly. "We have had the technology for decades. We simply chose not to share it with a council that treats new species as children." Before the council could respond, another hologram appeared. It showed the battle at New Eden. The Defiant was engaging the Nix ships, its advanced weapons tearing through their defenses. Even now, Humanity is under attack by a force called the Nix Collective, Diana continued. A force that some of you may recognize. The Voss representative suddenly looked uncomfortable. Several other council members exchanged nervous glances. You know them, Diana realized. Some of you have known about the Nix all along. The Nix are merely a myth, Zorax said quickly, a story told to frighten young species. Then what are they doing attacking our colonies? Diana demanded, pointing to the battle images. And why do some of you look so afraid at the mention of their name? At New Eden, General Frank Ortega directed the colony's defense forces. Unlike regular human soldiers that the Council had seen, these troops wore advanced powered armor and carried energy weapons. Keep the civilians in the underground shelters, Frank ordered. Concentrate fire on the Nix ground forces approaching from the north. A young soldier named Carl Mason ran up to him. Sir, the enemy is deploying some kind of energy field around the main settlement. Our communications are failing. Frank nodded. Switch to quantum entanglement communicators. The Nix can't block those. He looked up as a massive explosion lit up the sky. One of the Nix ships was breaking apart, destroyed by the Defiance weapons. They didn't expect us to fight back, Franks said with grim satisfaction. Not like this. Back at the council chamber, chaos had erupted. Some representatives were demanding explanations. Others were calling for sanctions against humanity. A few had simply fled the chamber in panic. Diana stood firm. Humanity requests immediate assistance against the Nix threat. We are prepared to share our technology and resources with any species willing to stand with us. The Zalari representative hissed in anger. You deceived us for decades. You built warships and colonies against council regulations. Regulations designed to keep new species weak and dependent, Diana countered. While ancient species like yours hoarded knowledge and power, a new figure entered the chamber. It was a representative of the Krell, one of the oldest species in the council. The human speaks truth, the Krell said, its voice deep and resonant. For too long this council has used regulations to control emerging species. Perhaps it is time for change. As the council argued, Admiral Bell received reports from across human space. The Nix had attacked 2 more colonies, but human forces were responding. The element of surprise had worked in humanity's favor. The Nix expected easy targets and found heavily armed resistance instead. But Catherine knew this was just the beginning. On her command screen, she watched as Captain Hayes' ship destroyed a second Nix vessel. The third was retreating. Admiral, her communications officer called. We're receiving a transmission from the retreating Nix ship. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. Put it through, Catherine ordered. A strange figure appeared on screen. It had dark, smooth skin that seemed to absorb light. Its eyes were large and entirely black. Humans, the figure said, its voice oddly melodic. You have hidden your true nature well, but we know what you really are. And what is that? Catherine asked. Descendants of our ancient enemies, the ones you call predecessors. The Nix's eyes narrowed. Their taint is in your genetic code. Their corruption is in your technology. You will share their fate. The transmission ended abruptly. Catherine sat back in her chair, processing this new information. Send this to Dr. Patel immediately, she ordered. And contact Earth. Tell them. She paused, looking at the tactical display where a massive fleet of Nix vessels was assembling at the edge of human space. Tell them the real war is just beginning. Fleet Admiral Nancy Chen stood in the war room beneath Earth's Pacific Ocean. Holographic displays showed the positions of human fleets and the advancing Nix armada. At 62, Nancy had never expected to command humanity's combined forces in an actual war. Yet here she was, planning humanity's defense against an enemy that wanted to wipe them from existence. The Nix have broken through our outer defenses in 2 sectors, reported her second-in-command, Captain Greg Walker. They're moving toward the Epsilon and Tau Ceti systems. Nancy studied the displays. Redirect the 7th and 3rd fleets to intercept. What about our call for allies? Greg looked surprised. We've received responses from 4 previously unknown species. They say they want to help us fight the Nyx. Unknown species? Nancy frowned. Show me. Greg activated a new display. It showed images of 4 different alien races. None of them resembled any council species Nancy had seen before. They call themselves the Coalition of Hidden Worlds, Greg explained. Apparently they've been hiding from the Nyx for centuries, just like we've been hiding our true strength from the council. Nancy smiled slightly. It seems we're not the only ones, with secrets. Open communications with their leaders immediately. On Mars, Dr. Paul Rodriguez carefully brushed dust from an ancient stone tablet. For weeks, he and his team had been excavating ruins they had discovered beneath the Martian surface. Ruins that had been hidden for thousands of years. Dr. Rodriguez called his assistant, Helen Blake. You need to see this. Paul followed her to a newly uncovered chamber. Its walls were covered with symbols identical to those found in the artifact that Commander Russell had discovered decades ago. Its predecessor writing, Paul said in awe. The same civilization. Helen pointed to a particular section of wall. We've translated this part. It mentions Earth. It says the predecessors visited Earth over 50,000 years ago. She hesitated. They experimented on early humans. Paul felt a chill run down his spine. Are you saying the Nyx are, right? That we're related to the predecessors? Helen nodded slowly. According to this, the predecessors merged some of their DNA with early human ancestors. They were trying to create a species that could eventually inherit their knowledge. We need to tell Admiral Chen immediately, Paul said, already reaching for his communication device. At the edge of human space, Ambassador Eric Turner met with the representatives of the Coalition of Hidden Worlds. The meeting took place on a neutral station, hastily constructed for this purpose. For centuries we believed we were alone in hiding from the Nyx, said Talia, a representative of the Elleran species. Her skin shimmered with a metallic glow, and her 4 eyes watched Eric carefully. Our people fled to the shadows when the Nyx destroyed our homeworld, added Krex, a reptilian being from a species called the Varric. We thought they would eventually find us all. Eric nodded in understanding. And now that humans have stood against them openly, you're willing to fight alongside us? The Nyx are vulnerable in ways we didn't realize, said Merrick, a gaseous being contained within a special suit. Your weapons have proved effective against their ships, something no other species has managed in 10,000 years. We believe it is because of your connection to the predecessors, explained the 4th representative, a crystalline entity named Jen. The very thing the Nyx hate about you may be your greatest strength. Eric leaned forward. Tell me everything you know about the predecessors. As the meeting continued, Fleet Admiral Chen received the news from Dr. Rodriguez. She immediately called an emergency meeting with Earth's President Laura Walsh and the military high command. So the Nyx are right, President Walsh said after hearing the report. We are connected to their ancient enemies. Yes, Nancy confirmed, but this may work in our favor. Dr. Rodriguez believes the predecessor technology we've been using is only a fraction of what might be available to us. If we can access more of their knowledge, we might have a chance against the Nyx Armada, finished General Carl Freeman. But we need time. Nancy pointed to the tactical display. Time is something we don't have. The main Nyx fleet will reach our core systems in 3 days. President Walsh stood up, her expression resolute. Then we need to slow them down. Admiral Chen, you have full authority to deploy all of our forces. Hold them off while Dr. Rodriguez continues his research. The largest space battle in human history began in the Tau Ceti system. Over 200 human warships faced a Nyx fleet 3 times their size. Alongside the human ships were 40 vessels from the Coalition of Hidden Worlds, each with unique technologies unseen in Council space. Captain Olivia Ford commanded the HSS Invincible at the front line. Her ship shuddered as Nyx energy weapons impacted against the shields. Shields at 70%, reported her tactical officer. Returning fire. The Invincible's main weapons fired, tearing through a Nyx cruiser. Around them, space was filled with explosions as ships from both sides were hit. "Captain," called her communications officer. "Admiral Chen is ordering all ships to execute Maneuver Delta." Olivia nodded. "All hands, prepare for emergency jump." Across the battlefield, human ships suddenly vanished, using their advanced jump drives to reappear behind the Nix fleet. The surprise maneuver allowed them to attack the enemy's vulnerable rear sections. "It's working!" Olivia exclaimed as the Nix formation broke apart in confusion. But her celebration was short-lived. A massive vessel, easily 10 times the size of the Invincible, emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the system. Its arrival sent a shockwave through space itself. The Nix flagship, Olivia realized with dread. The enormous ship began to glow with energy. A beam of blinding light shot forth, cutting through 3 human vessels as if they were nothing. "All ships, evasive action," Admiral Chen ordered over the fleet-wide channel. "Focus fire on that flagship." Every human and coalition ship turned, their weapons toward the Nix flagship. Energy beams, missiles, and exotic weapons struck the massive vessel simultaneously. For a moment it seemed to falter. Then the flagship fired again, and again. Each blast destroyed more Allied ships. "We can't win this," Olivia realized as she watched the destruction unfold. She opened a channel to Admiral Chen. "Admiral, we need to retreat. We've lost almost a third of our forces already." There was a long pause before Chen responded. "Agreed. All ships, fall back to Rally Point Omega. We need to regroup." As the human and coalition forces began their withdrawal, Olivia received one final message from Admiral Chen. "Captain Ford, the Nix flagship must be tracked. Your ship has the best stealth systems in the fleet. Stay behind and follow it. We need to know where it's going next." Olivia looked at her crew. They were tired and scared, but determined. "Plot a stealth course to shadow the flagship," she ordered, "and pray they don't notice us." As the Invincible activated its advanced stealth systems, Olivia watched the rest of the fleet escape to safety. The Battle of Tau Ceti was lost, but the war was far from over, and somewhere on Mars, Dr. Rodriguez had just made a discovery that would change everything. Grand Admiral Jason Miller watched as Earth grew larger in the view screen. The HSS Relentless, his flagship, led what remained of humanity's combined fleets. Behind them, the massive Nix armada approached relentlessly. This would be humanity's final stand. "Status report," Jason ordered, his voice betraying none of the fear he felt. "All ships in defensive formation," reported his executive officer, Carol Yang. "Planetary defense systems at maximum power. Civilian evacuations to the underground shelters are 90% complete." Jason nodded. After the defeat at Tau Ceti, they had fallen back to defend humanity's homeworld. Every available ship had been recalled. Even old vessels pulled from retirement now joined the defensive line. "And our allies?" "The coalition forces are in position," Carol said, "and we've received word that several council species are on their way as well." That had been unexpected. After Ambassador Diana Lewis revealed humanity's deception, most of the council had been outraged. But as the Nix threat became clear, old enemies had become reluctant allies. "Sir," Carol said hesitantly, "Dr. Garcia says she needs to speak with you immediately. She says it's about the predecessor device." In her laboratory beneath the Martian surface, Dr. Sofia Garcia worked frantically. When Dr. Rodriguez had discovered the ancient chamber, no one had expected to find an actual working predecessor device. Yet here it was. A strange metallic sphere that pulsed with inner light. The door opened, and Grand Admiral Miller's hologram appeared before her. "Dr. Garcia, please tell me you have good news," he said. Sophia gestured to the sphere. "I believe this is a weapon, Admiral. Or rather a counter-weapon specifically designed to fight Nix technology." "Can we use it?" Sophia hesitated. "Possibly. Based on Dr. Rodriguez's translations, this device can disrupt the energy fields the Nix use to power their ships and weapons. But there's a problem. Which is, it needs to be activated from within the Nix flagship itself. It creates a kind of resonance wave that spreads outward, but it has to start at the strongest source of Nix energy." Jason's hologram flickered as he processed this information. So someone would need to get this device onto the Nyx flagship and activate it there. Yes, and whoever does it might not survive the experience. Jason's expression hardened. Send me the complete data. I'll discuss this with President Walsh. In the presidential bunker deep beneath Washington, D.C., President Laura Walsh faced the most difficult decision of her life. Before her stood Grand Admiral Miller, Dr. Garcia, and the leaders of Earth's defense forces. You're telling me this predecessor device could disable the entire Nyx fleet? Laura asked. Yes, Madam President, Dr. Garcia confirmed, but only if activated from within their flagship. And Protocol Omega? What about that option? The room grew silent. Protocol Omega was humanity's last resort, a network of quantum bombs placed throughout the solar system. If activated, they would create a chain reaction that would destroy everything, including Earth itself. That remains our final option, Jason said quietly. If the Nyx cannot be stopped any other way, we can ensure they gain nothing from our defeat. Laura closed her eyes briefly. How would we get the device onto their flagship? Captain Ford's ship has been tracking it, Jason explained. The Invincible has stealth technology that can get close enough. And who would volunteer for such a mission? Jason straightened. I will take the device myself, Madam President. The Relentless can create a diversion while I transfer to the Invincible and approach the Nyx flagship. Before Laura could respond, alarms blared throughout the bunker. Her aide rushed in. Madam President, the Nyx have entered the solar system. They've pushed past our outer defenses. The battle for Earth had begun. In space above the blue planet, human ships formed a protective line. Alongside them flew vessels from the coalition of hidden worlds. And to everyone's surprise, ships from the Galactic Council had arrived as well. Solari cruisers, Voss battleships, and others. The Nyx armada emerged from faster-than-light travel, hundreds of ships led by their enormous flagship. Immediately both sides opened fire. Space itself seemed to burn as energy weapons, missiles, and exotic technologies clashed. On the bridge of the Relentless, Grand Admiral Miller issued commands that were relayed throughout the fleet. Human ships moved with practiced precision, their formation shifting to counter-Nyx tactics. The Council ships are taking heavy losses on the left flank, Carol reported. Should we divert forces to assist? Negative, Jason replied. Maintain formation. We need to create an opening for the Invincible. The battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed. Earth's orbital defense platforms fired massive energy beams into the heart of the Nyx fleet. But slowly, inevitably, the Nyx pushed forward. Admiral, Carol said, her voice tight with tension, the Nyx flagship is charging its main weapon. If it fires on Earth. Jason made his decision. Initiate Operation Spearhead. I'm transferring to the Invincible. As Jason left the bridge, Carol took command. She watched as a small shuttle departed from the Relentless, carrying the Admiral and the predecessor device toward Captain Ford's stealth ship. The Nyx flagship grew ever closer to Earth. Its main weapon began to glow with blinding energy. In the presidential bunker, Laura Walsh received the update. Madam President, her military advisor said grimly, we estimate 5 minutes until the Nyx weapon is fully charged. Our defenses cannot stop a blast of that magnitude. Laura looked at the activation key for Protocol Omega. Her hand hovered over it. Wait, she said. Grand Admiral Miller is attempting to deploy the predecessor device. Give him time. Aboard the Invincible, Jason joined Captain Olivia Ford on the bridge. The stealth ship was positioned directly above the Nyx flagship, invisible to their sensors. You sure about this, Admiral? Olivia asked. Jason nodded, securing the predecessor device to his suit. Sometimes a leader has to do more than just give orders, Captain. Prepare the boarding team. Minutes later, Jason and a small team of volunteers used specialized equipment to cut through the hull of the Nyx flagship. They entered the alien vessel, moving quickly through its strange corridors. This way, Jason said, following the energy readings on his scanner. Their power core should be directly ahead. They encountered Nyx defenders and exchanged fire. 2 human soldiers fell. They pressed on, fighting their way deeper into the ship. Finally, they reached the central chamber, A massive crystalline structure pulsed with energy at its center. "Cover me," Jason ordered, approaching the crystal with the predecessor device. He placed it against the pulsing surface and activated the sequence Dr. Garcia had shown him. The device began to glow, matching the rhythm of the Nyx crystal. The two energies resonated together, building in intensity. "It's working," Jason said as his scanner showed energy fluctuations throughout the ship. "Everyone get back to the extraction point." But there was no time. The resonance wave expanded, rapidly, engulfing the chamber in blinding light. Above Earth, the entire Nyx fleet suddenly faltered. Their weapons powered down. Their engines failed. The massive flagship, moments away from firing on Earth, went dark. In the confusion, human and allied ships pressed their advantage, tearing into the defenseless Nyx vessels. The flagship, however, began to emit strange energy readings. Space itself seemed to warp around it. A swirling vortex of light appeared, growing larger by the second. "What's happening?" President Walsh demanded as she watched the display. "It appears to be some kind of wormhole," Dr. Garcia explained, analyzing the data. "The interaction between the predecessor device and the Nyx technology must have created a tear in spacetime. The vortex grew until it engulfed the Nyx flagship completely. Then, in a flash of blinding light, both the flagship and the anomaly vanished. With their command ship gone, the remaining Nyx vessels retreated, jumping away to unknown destinations. Earth was saved. 2 weeks later, President Walsh addressed the combined representatives of humanity, the Coalition, and the Galactic Council. "We have won a great victory," she said. "But the Nyx will return. And when they do, we must be ready. No longer hiding in shadows, no longer divided by ancient prejudices. Together we can build a galaxy where no species needs to hide its true potential." As the representatives applauded, a communication officer rushed to her side. "Madam President," he whispered urgently, "we're receiving a transmission. It's from Grand Admiral Miller." Laura's eyes widened. "That's impossible. He was on the Nyx flagship when it vanished." The officer handed her a datapad. The message was brief. "Found predecessor homeworld. Nyx in pursuit. Prepare for what comes next." Laura looked up at the stars visible through the chamber's transparent dome. Somewhere out there, beyond known space, a new chapter was beginning. Humanity had built an empire no one saw coming. They had fought a war against ancient aliens and survived. Now they would lead the galaxy into an uncertain future.